Hi, today I have a new guest for you to talk about sexuality. And she is here. She can introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Pauliina. I'm 27-year-old, and I work in child protective services in youth home in Finland, in South Finland.
Did you work for a long time at this place?
At this place, I've been working since last spring.
What made you apply to study sexology?
I've always been interested to help others to understand humanity and people. And when I was studying to become a social worker, I realized that maybe sexual therapist would be my thing. So I learned that you have to first become a sexual counselor before attending to the therapy part of the studies. So that's why I decided to apply to become a sexual counselor.
Is there something you already learned so far? Some biggest revelations you had during your studies?
Well, I don't know if there's anything like big. I feel like it's more about everything that we are that amazes me. I mean, everything that we've been talking and learning together has been great and has been like, I think, eye-opening for me, like to learn different types of relationships and how they work, and to learn how to remember to take the sexuality part of you and others into account when you're like with people who have sickness or some other illness or problems.
Was there something that you learned at the studies and then you were like, okay, this I can use right away, like at my job?
Before working in youth home, I was already learning a lot of sexuality in youth. So there wasn't anything super new that I found out through my studies. But what I found out through my clients when we talk about sexuality and we talk about humanity and people in general, what I've learned is how easily, like, tiny steps you can take to make someone to feel welcomed in your space. For example, if you are part of LGBTQ+, just someone who is not part of that community but who is supporter, just wearing a rainbow keychain, for example, can make them feel so much more safer and accepted.
How would you explain what is sexual development?
I don't know how to explain it, actually.
It's really broad.
Yeah, it's quite a big question, I think. It's something that we have already when we are in our mother's womb until we die, basically. And I think everyone's different, and how they grow up and where they grow up. There's like huge impact to them, who they become. But then there's tiny part of us that you can't change, and that's okay.
What do you think are the biggest benefits of sexual education for kids and youngsters?
You keep them safe. I think that's the most important benefits that you can have with kids and youth. You keep them safe. You teach them how to take care of themselves. You teach them to be independent, to say no. You teach them to take care of their boundaries. You teach them to take care of their bodies. You teach them to take care of each other. So I think that's the key element when you are giving any type of sexual education to kids or youth.
How can you help them maybe recognize their boundaries?
By starting when they are little, by telling them about their body parts and how they work, and which body parts are important for them, and if they don't want to do something, with their bodies. They don't necessarily have to, if it's something that it's okay for them to say no, and then to start recognizing the situation that makes them uncomfortable and the situation that makes them comfortable, to teach them correct words to use when they're talking about their body parts.
I think it's really cool that you brought up that the most important part of the sex education is the safety. I think many people maybe are biased a little bit when they hear sex education.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own pictures about it,
Mm-hmm.
which are not always necessarily right. And I think it's also important maybe to tell parents that this is the goal
Mm-hmm.
of it, to keep the kids safe. If you want them safe, they should have good sex education.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Do you think it's the sex education somehow developed from the time when you were a kid and now that you are teaching kids or youngsters?
I would like to think that it has changed, but I'm afraid that the change is very slow. I feel like in schools they do recognize the importance of sex education more than when I was younger, but I still feel that it varies a lot between schools and between teachers, how they teach and what do they think is important to teach. Yeah, what I've seen when I was working in kindergarten as a teacher, I saw that in there was already a lot of talk about emotions and your body parts and what is okay to do to others and what not. But I think it varies a lot.
Because I'm thinking when I was small, my sexual education was in the school, in the elementary school, mostly about protection. So how not to get diseases, how not to get unwanted kids, like how not to die of any disease is like important. But now that I study sexology, I'm like, oh my God, it's so much broader. And it seems like it didn't really give us any tools how to navigate the relationships, your own body, your emotions. What kind of things you think, if you imagine like a good sexual education that you would consider good to give young people, what it should include? What are all the aspects that it should include?
Oh, I think there's a lot of aspects to include. But I think the most important part when talking about sexuality, especially with kids and youth, is that you are not ashamed to yourself. Because if you are ashamed and if something makes you uncomfortable, you will give that the same energy, the same feeling to the kids and youth around you. And somehow talking about this specific topic is somehow shameful or uncomfortable, and they get the feeling, but they don't understand why this is so shameful or uncomfortable. It's just a party part, or it's just to, or many people having fun, or just the way of showing love. Or so I think that's the most important thing when teaching or when talking about sexuality with youth. But I think with kids, the key element is about their body parts. What are the names? How and emotions. How different emotions feel in your body, and that it's okay to cry, or it's okay to feel sad, or it's okay to be happy, and how do they make you feel? But what is not okay to do when you have those feelings in you, and also when someone is saying no, what does that mean, and how do you respect that? And when you want to say no, what does that mean, and how others are respecting that? And when we talk about teenagers, then I think the important parts, they're still the same thing. When no, what does no mean? No is a no, no matter the situation, no matter who is there with you. No means no, and I think that's the most important thing to teach to teenagers. Whether or not is it your own no or is it someone else's no. And I think the two other very important things are, well, basic hygiene, how to take care of yourself and others. Is it protection? Is it is it the hygiene for yourself, like the basics of how to take care of yourself and others, not to get sick or get some STIs, and also not to give them or not to have them from others. And I think still with teenagers, when they are having their emotional phases of life, I think the importance to them is also to teach the emotions and talk about the emotions and how the body is changing and how the emotions are feeling in their body, and how to deal with the emotions when the body is changing. So I think those are the very key elements when educating with sexual stuff with kids and youth.
I'm imagining there are different struggles that people are kind of experiencing more, depending on the culture, the time we're living in. Are there some struggles you think youth is struggling with the most, like right now?
I think right now it's hard to say with youth in general, because in youth home you see very troubled kids and situations. But I think social media is it's a very good place, I think. But it comes with trouble, with some things that I think kids and youth cannot handle themselves alone. There's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of comparing each other. There's a lot of hate in there. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of toxic energy about females, about males, or about non-binary or trans people. There's a lot of things that you can find information quite easy, and you can find community and safety, friends. But then on the other hand, you can also be targeted through hate, or you can find yourself in communities that are not safe or are not good. They bring some troubles in your life.
Yeah, I was thinking the internet is probably very something that brings a lot of struggles, even though it also brings a lot of knowledge if you know how to use it, and maybe relief, and maybe some social places to make more friends if you struggle to make them alive. But yeah, I think it's also can bring more challenges as well.
For sure. And I think in today's society, when we all rely on our mobile phones, or in order to connect with people, you have to have social media. So you can quite easily get stuck there and find not the greatest place or not the greatest people. And some people might also target you, even though you are not looking for trouble or you're not looking the hate. Some people might find you and spread the hate.
Is there something about internet we should specifically teach for youth that is concerning their sexuality or their sexual development or maybe safety?
Well, with kids, I think the responsibility of parents is a big thing in there, for them to make sure that the child is not using too much of a phone or any internet device, and that it's very limited what they can do time-wise, and also where they can go, like what social media platforms are they allowed to use. We know that porn is something that you can quite easily get nowadays. You can get it, you can get through it from your phone or your laptop, it doesn't matter. You can do it accidentally, even with someone sending you a link in a group chat or in whatever message forum. You can accidentally click a link, and you can end in a site where you can see very like stuff that's not for kids. And with youth, I think there's same elements for the parents, but obviously it's a bit different because they are already like teenagers. They have more freedom, they have more friends, they have to be connected with through phone, through laptop, through social media. So in those cases, I think it's very hard to do anything as a parent, but I think you should just be there, just ask ask them what's going on in social media, what's going on in the bubble. Who are they talking with? Is there something that they should share? Like, what are the platforms they follow? What are the people they follow? What are the things they are posting? Is there something that I don't know, in general, is there something that it should be okay to show their parent? I don't mean messages, I don't mean like friend group chats, that's not the case, but everything in social media. How does their feed in Instagram look like, or in TikTok? TikTok is very huge among kids and youth, teenagers. So like, what does it look like? And to ask often, is there something that we should talk about?
That like requires a very trustful, close relationship. And I'm like speculating now, so like guessing, but I think, or I can guess that many youngsters who end up in some not very beneficial, not very healthy or good, maybe social networks, they maybe already come from premises where they don't have this kind of close or trustful relationship with the parents or caregivers, and maybe they are going to get something they don't get at home or from their social circles, and then they suddenly get it somewhere else. But that might be a bad place for them in the long term. And I think it's a bit maybe kind of sad that it can be connected, but at the same time, to cure this, you're gonna have this good relationship.
Yeah, and a lot of kids and teenagers, I think they also escape in social media, like all their thoughts, all their like bad feelings and their anxiety, their worries, they escape into social media. Like the world is open for them to do whatever, not to be thinking their thoughts or facing the troubles in their home. They can end up in platforms that are not good for them. And if they already have hate in them, that can feed the hate, and that can do a lot of harm to them and others, because I think hate is one of the most harmful emotion when talking about sexuality.
What are safe options to go through that hate that we can maybe offer to young people? Some more kind of safe, beneficial ways to go through that feeling, instead of, finding those places where your hate gets kind of supported and then grown out of proportion and maybe projected on some other people.
That's a very good question, because I think the kids and youth, they have to have someone trustworthy to talk about those very hard topics about hate. It doesn't matter who is the one who is getting the hate, but like, why are you feeling that way? And to talk about those thoughts, I think that would make a difference when you have someone to talk with. But I think if the situation often is that there is no one to talk with, or if there is, you can't be talking honestly, and that leads you to talk with the community that you found from internet who shares the same thoughts and ideas, and then you start to like grow. The hate starts to grow.
Is there something like when you work with them and they come to you with questions that are connected to their sexuality in one way or another, do you feel it's easy for them to ask things or to talk about that, or does that require some extra work from your side to talk about to make them talk about those things?
I've noticed it's not easy for them. It is not easy. What I've noticed through my work, especially with teenagers, that when they talk about things that somehow are related to sexuality, which most of this stuff is, but when it's very personal, when it's about sex, when it's about their body parts, when it's about relationships, then I've noticed that teenagers, even in today's society, they tend to not use the words that are meant to be used when talking about those topics, about sex, about boyfriends, girlfriends, or people you are dating with, or other very, very personal feelings or issues or troubles. And I've noticed that it's not easy. So yeah, I think you have to have a strong bond with the child or with that teenager to talk about those things. Or in another case, which I would like to see more in the future, is when you speak about those things when they are young, when they're little, they start to talk about them as they are normal. So they are not ashamed. As in the beginning or somewhere in there, I was saying that when you are teaching or when you are educating about sexuality, I think you should not be ashamed or uncomfortable, because you will give that energy to the people who are listening, and they will start to think, oh, there's something shameful in this. So in the future, I really hope when we take the shame out when talking about sexuality, I think that makes a huge difference in the future of how people will start talking about it when teenagers come speak with their troubles, and they are not afraid to use the actual words.
I remember I was when I worked with kids in kindergarten, I read an article. I was kind of researching some stuff to get more tools for my work. I don't remember whose article, but it was some kind of therapist, like a psychodynamic therapist who works with kids. And it was a very interesting point they were writing, that when a small kid who just got words and just learned to talk is asking you, like, how I was born, how I was made, what happened, is most likely a very different story they want to know than when a school kid asks you that. Yeah. And that if you start telling all the technical details to like a 2-year-old, they might be very scared of those words and that complex technical stuff. And maybe they are asking more about why am I existing? Was it love story? Was it was a surprise? I'm a surprise, like what is behind that? Because that's the language they can understand. It's kind of imaginative. And when it's a school kid, they might want to know all the technical details because that's something they are wondering about. Like they know you need to be in some kind of relationship or some kind of interest into each other, but what actually happens, they might be actually interested in that part. And that sometimes when you don't recognize that, or you don't make what you say sound like understandable for that age, it can be confusing for them. And they might ask somebody else instead.
Or look themselves online, and that's not a good way to find information.
It was really well said. Something I didn't consider before. Is there some issues you maybe recognize or notice that youngsters or like teenagers come more with
when talking about sexuality?
Yeah.
Well, when talking about kids in youth home, most of them have some type of sexual trauma. Some point in their life, they had some kind of uncomfortable situation with someone that caused them trauma. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but most of them have some type of memory or some type of feeling that something happened to them. And through those, they are more easier targets to future cases where someone is using them or taking advantage of them. So I think those are the problems that I recognize, especially when talking about kids in youth home. I think it's not necessarily a big problem. Probably, I think it's getting bigger and bigger in today's society because the social media, anyone can send a unwanted picture of themselves to you, and you can be quite young when you open it, and that can be already a cause of trauma, even though nothing like physically happened to you, but you saw something you were not supposed to see, and someone took advantage of you. So I think that is a problem I've seen a lot.
Does it seem like young people are missing tools? Like when this happens, what do I do? How do I react? Do I ask for help somewhere? Do I need to report this? Like, do they have any knowledge about this?
I think nowadays you have more knowledge of what to do. I think there is also the part of a shame. Shame is a very strong feeling that very young kids can already feel, and I think that's the issue when they feel so ashamed that they did something wrong because they got the picture. They don't want to talk about it. They don't go to their parent or some trustworthy adult to say, hey, I got this, what do I do? And then they end up in a cycle where maybe they're getting more of those photos and they don't know what to do, which is sad because it's never the kid's fault, never. Even though when they send some pictures themselves, it's never their fault because they're kids, they don't understand. So again, it comes to the parents, to the adults in the kid's life, to be teaching them, to speak with them, have an open discussion about things, and about internet, about social media. And if you get these type of photos or this type of request of sending the photos, what do you do in those situations? So already like talk about how do you respond when you get those those photos or requests. I think that's a very important part to keep the kids and youth safe.
It just crossed my mind that when we are teaching the boundaries, the right to decide for yourself, for your own body, your boundaries, who can touch you, how they can touch you, all those kind of things, that maybe for less fortunate families where maybe inside the family some kind of violation of the boundaries is already happening or happened, it can be much harder to recognize that it's not normal, because basically I think you kind of learn what's normal based on your family, because even if it's very vile, it's still normal because that's your everyday. And does it require a different approach, tools or work to kind of shift this perception of normal, or to kind of teach that, by the way, this was not normal? What happens if you understand that this, for example, is violence?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a very sensitive situation to be in, because when you're working with small kids, they can also imagine a lot of things. They can also make a lot of things out of their imagination, even though they never happen, or they can feel or see some things differently than when they are speaking about it. So I think first of all, there has to be some kind of way to acknowledge the fact that, is this made up, or is this something that we have to take seriously? But I think when working with kids, you can maybe see through everyday life if they do something that seems odd, something that seems not normal. I think you can see it, that something's maybe not okay, like something's wrong at their home. And when working with teenagers, the violation could have happened already like years, or like, I don't know, since they were little, and they've already, maybe they are also protecting their parents or their family members. So it's very hard to make them talk or to have a convo about those things, because they don't want to open those things. They can be so rooted somewhere inside them that they're afraid that if they speak, or if they make someone known about these problems, everything will go even worse. Because when you're working with kids in youth home, usually they don't want to be there first place. They want to go home. They want to spend time with their families, even though when the families are probably not the best for them. If you want to find out if something happened, in their family or is happening currently in their family, it's a very difficult task.
Which tells me again, probably requires, like you said previously, kind of safe and safe environment and a trustful adult. And I can imagine for a person who maybe doesn't have experience with this kind of adult, it can take time and effort to build this first before they can even share anything kind of personal.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think are the biggest challenges of teaching youth about sexuality for the educator or for teacher or for parent? What is like maybe the hardest part of it for us adults?
First, you have to be okay with yourself. So I think that's the hardest part as an adult, to be okay with yourself, who you are and what you are representing. Is it a man? Is it a woman? Or is it something else? And talking about shame again, I think shame is a very controlling feeling. So you have to get rid of that. But then when talking about teaching, educating, I think the difficult part can also be the kids or teenagers' families. If they don't understand what you're doing, or if they don't understand what sexuality means, what is it in human life, in humanity, in us, if they don't understand that, they can be the most difficult challenge. Because I don't think the kids or teenagers or youth in general, I don't think they are the ones who can make it difficult, because they are still in early stages of learning. They are interested, and it's very, especially teenagers, they are very interested about sexuality and what others are thinking, or what do I have to know or learn in order to be a better partner or better friend, or they're very interested about sex or our body parts. Especially toddlers are very interested in our body parts, and they want to know everything and learn everything about them. So I think the kids and youth are not a problem when you're teaching or educating them. I think the adults can be.
Okay, thank you. Well, I got at least a lot of tools for myself.
Thank you.
If I ever get youngsters coming for a counseling session.
Well, that's good to hear.